Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
staff's
you.
ready.
Okay, the board's all here. I'll call this meeting to order. It's the B Corporation this time around. I'm President Scott Harris. The time is now 1:31 p.m. It's September 20th. We'll start with roll call. Ms. Huerta?
President Scott Harris.
Here.
Robert Themis. Diana Summers.
Here.
Leah Oliveri. Lee Trujillo. John Valls. Alan Wilson. Michael Hunter. Mr. Hunter's absent. Okay, we do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Item C on the agenda is public comment. Would anyone like to make public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Huerta, have we received any public comments?
Not written ones, no, sir.
Okay. Okay, item D is our minutes and our excused absences from the last meeting. So these are the minutes from our meeting on April 16th, 2021. We had a
August 16th.
chance to review them.
August
Move we
16th.
approve.
August 16th.
August 16th, what did I say, John?
April.
April. I was way off on that one. Sorry.
I move we
Put my-
approve.
Let me put my glasses on. August 16th.
Right, and then there's also the
2021.
25th and August 30th as well. 3 sets of minutes.
25th.
And the 25th, and yeah, those are regular meetings and our workshops, the 25th and the 30th,
And a special, yes, sir.
and the special meeting. So,
A second.
So move. Yeah.
yeah, a motion from Mr. Wilson, a second by Mr. Valls. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Also under this, this agenda item here, we've got approval of excused, or approval of absences. So, Mr. Tomez, you were absent on the 16th of August for that regular meeting. Do you want that to count as one of your excused absences? Okay. Okay, do we have to vote on that, Ms. Huerta?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the absence on the 16th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Financial report. Ms. Heather.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Board. Heather Hurlbert, Director of Finance. Next slide, please. So this is the financial report for the 10 months ended July 31st, 2021. We began the year with a fund balance of almost $8 million, $7.9 million. Revenues year to date through July 31st are $6.5 million. Our expenditures year to date are $5.1 million for an ending fund balance of $9.3 million. And you'll see the breakout of the affordable housing, the economic development, and the streets. The street does reflect a negative $254,000 balance, but that is because we still have 2 more months of sales tax that need to be recorded, and so that will be positive by the end of the year. Next slide, please. So looking at the commitments, in the affordable housing commitments as of the end of July is $500,000 for the Salvation Army. I believe that actually may be moved to 2022 when that amount will be paid out. Next slide, please. Our economic development commitments, we have numerous economic development commitments ranging through 2023. This list does not yet reflect the $4 million commitment to the drone program that was awarded to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and that'll be added as of our next month. And it also does not reflect the $701,000 in the small business contracts that were approved at the last meeting that switched from Type A to the Type B funding. Next slide, please. And then streets, we do reflect the fact that streets will be reimbursing economic development for the $2.5 million. And the $1.2 million that is the estimated balance for 2022 is programmed for a reconstruction of Elizabeth Street from Santa Fe to Staples, and that will be reflected in our 2022 budget. Next slide, please. So look at our tax revenue, and we've received all but 1 month of actuals in so far. And so currently, we're $584,000 over what we had budgeted. Just a reminder, we went into the fiscal year really not knowing what COVID was going to mean, and so we budgeted very conservatively. And so we have collected $584,000 more than what was budgeted. And hopefully by the time we meet next time, we will have those actuals in for September, and we'll know what our final amount is. And that does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Question.
Mr. Trujillo?
What happened in April that caused our sales tax receipts to be so high that 1 year, that 1 month? Is there anything in particular, that an event or something in the city, or?
Not necessarily. That would be the collections from spring break timeframe. So I know that we did have some record numbers on the hotel motel side. So it may have been that we had people in town spending extra money. And like I said, we were very conservative on the forecast for the budget. And so I don't know of a specific event. Like I said, that is that spring break time period.
Any other questions? Can you go back one slide real quick?
Sure. On the
You had
streets?
mentioned Elizabeth Street.
Yes.
Is that so that's a commitment. Why isn't it shown below?
It will actually be budgeted. So, this one works a little bit different. We're going to include the $1.2 million in the budget. So it does need to be added on here. Now that you say that, it does need to be added as a commitment. But we have it budgeted in fiscal year 22 budget for use of those funds.
Are there other streets that are?
Not yet. The 1.2 million, my understanding is, will be the project, that full 1.2 million will be used for that project.
Okay.
And then when we go through the budget process for 2023, there'll be the opportunity then to decide if there's another project within our streets plan, if there's other uses for the funds for other street type projects.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any further questions? Okay. Seeing none from the board, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, the first regular agenda item is a motion to authorize a 2-year agreement with the City of Corpus Christi to provide Type B affordable housing funding in an amount of $1 million for costs related to the infill housing incentive program. We'll start with a staff presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Buxton, the Assistant Director of Neighborhood Services. The presentation I have is regarding the $1 million request over 2 fiscal years for the infill housing program. Next slide, please. So as authorized in December 2015 in the Code of City Ordinances, the infill housing incentive program was to provide decent, affordable housing, assist in the development of abandoned and or non-conforming vacant lots where street and utility infrastructure was already present, expand the local tax base, revitalize existing neighborhoods, and reduce code enforcement abatement expenses. That program had not been updated since 2015. Next slide, please. So builders would qualify for incentives if a home was built in the CDBG block group area. Incentives included waivers of building permits, platting fees, and zoning fees, waiver of water, wastewater, and gas tap fees, 2 roll-off containers provided by the city's expense. But the program was extremely difficult to use because there was a sales price limitation on it that wouldn't allow the sales price to exceed $100,000. Next slide, please. So we are trying to change the funding from general fund to Type B. There has never been a line item in the general fund budget designating funds for the infill housing incentive program. The type of assistance, we're changing it from waivers to reimbursements. Fee waivers impact enterprise fund departments such as development services and utilities, and these departments depend on those fees to sustain their operating budgets. We're going to continue to include expenses like building permit fees, tap fees, platting, and zoning fees, but we're also going to add new eligible expenses that include demolition, water, wastewater infrastructure, and street improvements. We're also going to change the amount of assistance from having no cap to up to $25,000. Next slide, please. One of the changes we've made is removed the maximum size limit on the homes, and we're also including the provisions that are required to meet Type B requirements, which include increasing the home sales price from $100,000 to $204,000, which remains below the Type B limitation. Required home buyers have to have incomes at or below 80% of the area median income. And we're requiring a 5-year recapture period in the event that the subsidized home is sold, transferred, or no longer remains the home buyer's primary residence. City staff will manage administrative requirements to qualify home buyers. Next slide, please. Here you can see the table that demonstrates the 80% area median income limit. For a family of 4, that's $55,450. Next slide, please. This is our estimated budget, totaling $1 million again over the 2-year period. Next slide, please. So our next step, I'm sorry, go ahead. Get one slide back, please. These are estimated. We're not asking for a line item until we get the program going and know where the lots are going to be or what the expenses per lot would be. Then we'll be able to shake this out a little further. But this is a potential estimated.
Mr. Vols?
Thank you, Scott. So the fees, kind of going back a couple of slides, you don't have to go back a couple of slides, but from what I picked up, because y'all want to waive some of the fees associated with the development, you want the Type B funding to reimburse development services for those fees?
No, this is going to be a reimbursement. The developer would pay development services or water, utilities, gas.
Okay.
And then they would then turn in those expenses to us after they have proved they have sold it for a qualifying price and to a qualifying household. We would then reimburse them for those fees. But they do pay development services and any other city department that required fees or such as the tap fees or permits.
Okay, so when you say we, you mean the Type B funds
The Type B funds would reimburse those fees,
to the
yes.
developer?
Yes,
So basically, we're paying for the development services fees.
Development Services still collects their fees, but yes.
Right, okay. My only issue with that is, it's really just moving money around from one city entity to another. And if that's gonna be an incentive that y'all offer, that should also be a cost that y'all are able to absorb. I don't know how comfortable I feel using our money to fund another department because it doesn't look good on their books to not get those fees. Is that kind of where you're going with that, Peter?
No, so I'm not sure what do you mean about it doesn't look good, but basically the subsidy from this program would help pay for the cost of construction, and what we would pay is the developer fees that they pay at development services.
So you don't want development services to have the deficiency on their balance sheet
Right.
of waived fees.
Yeah,
You'd
exactly.
rather have the Type B funding cover those costs.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so what it is development services is run like a business. It's its own fund.
Right.
And so you can consider it an enterprise fund.
Right.
So the revenues that they get from applications to review design, construction permits, the
Okay.
inspections that they do in the field, all those revenues pay for their staff, their operation. So if we start waiving fees, then they can't pay their staff, right? And they can't take care of new technologies, and they can't fix the building. And so
Right.
this is a way to allow development services to still get paid by the developer, and we'll reimburse the developer with these fees.
Are we doing that because you're setting the precedent with other enterprise funds, the airport, gas department, and so forth? So are we doing that with any other departments?
We may in the future, not right now, but we may in the future as we subsidize more, as we look for more programs to subsidize affordable housing. So what's done in San Antonio, as an example, is the water, wastewater line connections are often waived or paid, I should say, by their general fund they don't own the water system. It's San Antonio water system, a separate
Right.
one. So Fees are paid to the water system, or the water system budgets monies as well, to reimburse developers for line hookups, tap fees, that type of thing.
Okay, but that's the affordable housing funding, and I can understand that, but,
Right.
through the economic development funding, then we could possibly use that funding to subsidize, let's say, the airport. If the airport wants to develop another FBO or something like that,
Yeah.
we could help subsidize that?
We
Because
could,
they're an
yeah.
enterprise fund too. They would have to absorb that cost of construction.
Yes. Yeah, plus there's, there's, I was gonna say there's FAA regulations too that we have to be mindful of, but the reason that it's, the reason I just note that it's an enterprise or special revenue fund is that their revenues, in all cases that we're talking about right now, have to pay for their expenditures, and so if they don't get revenues from their fees and charges for service, then
Right.
it's tough to run the business.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you, Scott.
And it is, the funding that we're recommending to use for this is from the affordable housing allocation from the Type B.
Ms. Olivari, you have a question?
Could you just remind me how many houses you're talking about?
But I think we'll be able to do up to 40 if everybody maxed out the 25, but I don't believe they will.
Okay. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So our next steps include approving the 2-year agreement with the city for I'm sorry, did you?
Yeah, we have one more question.
My
before we
apologies.
proceed. Thank you. Lee?
You turn your microphone on, please.
I want to double check that here again, for the first-time home buyer assistance program, there's another fund that they can still seek funds for closing costs for first-time home buyers.
Yes.
And what fund is that again?
That's out of the Home Investment Partnerships Program that the city operates.
So this would have no bearing on the home buyer assistance program.
No.
Thank you.
Before we proceed, any other questions on the budget or anything? Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
So to approve the 2-year agreement with the city for $1 million, education and outreach campaign to realtors, home buyers, and home builders, and to pre-qualify potential home buyers. This does include going back to city council and removing the CDBG area limitation that we discussed during the workshop. That concludes my presentation. If you have questions.
Okay. Ms. Summers?
In the workshop, the community development block grants, those areas and those pieces of the presentation were removed as part of the workshop, and so now this is back into the infill housing program.
It was removed from the agreement, but I cannot remove it from the program guidelines until city council removes it from the program guidelines, because they're the ones that have to approve those. So it's in the program guidelines, but it is not in the agreement.
When we take this contract to city council after your approval, we intend to ask them to remove the CDBG guidelines at the same time, block grants at the same time.
Okay. And then in the workshop, we had talked about the non-conforming lots and the administrative replatting. Is that limited to just 2 lots, and they can only be added, not divided?
They
To
can be,
smaller lots?
they can be added, and it could be a third if they were all adjacent, and then there was a third non-conforming.
Okay, but they can't be subdivided?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further questions from the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to, okay, we have a motion from Mr. Wilson. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Summers. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say no. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. We're going to move on to our public hearings.
Hold on, Chairman.
First,
Chairman, just a moment. Constance has just pointed out, we needed to do an amendment on that motion to amend the budget. If we could just do a motion to amend the budget.
To appropriate the funds. But I mean, if you do
Okay.
that, $1 million.
I didn't understand what's going on.
We also need to amend the fiscal year 22, or I guess fiscal year 21 budget and appropriate those funds, the $1 million.
It's
Okay.
22. Fiscal
For-
year
22.
For the infill housing program?
Yes, sir, for the $1 million.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right, so the amended
That's not
budget,
on the agenda, though.
right, but we were supposed to tell you before you voted, and we did not, that we need to amend, we need to do a floor amendment on that motion to amend the 2022 budget and appropriate $500,000 out of the 2022 funds for this program. Otherwise, we'd have to have you make that motion separately later, so we're trying to do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Can we, so procedurally, how are we going to work this, Ms. Huerta? We've got a motion approval.
So the amendment has to occur before we approve. It needed to occur before we approve the budget, because the item. Okay, so we're gonna need to, I guess we'll reconsider the item, make the amendment, and then vote on the motion as amended. Is that correct? Because that's what, okay, so first we need to reconsider the item.
Okay.
So we'll reconsider, and there's no number.
Move that we reconsider the item.
Okay. So by the item, we're saying, there's no number on it, but I think it's item 4, right? Okay, so we're just going to reconsider the infill housing incentive program item. So Ms. Oliveri made the motion. Who's going to second? Who seconded? Okay, thank you. Well, the question was procedurally, what do we do procedurally?
Yeah,
That is what we
right.
do.
Okay, what's,
Okay.
now that we're reconsidering, what's the amendment?
It's a
we
motion.
say
Well,
that
we're going to,
again?
we need it, I'm sorry.
It would be a motion to amend that motion to add language to the end that would amend the fiscal year 2022 budget and appropriate $500,000 for the fiscal year 22 funding.
No, the motion I made is to reconsider item
Correct.
number 4.
So we need to do that first. We need to complete the
That's
reconsideration.
second, yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll do the motion to amend as stated by
Okay.
Ms. Alcorn Reed.
So
Okay.
we have a motion and a second on the table to reconsider item 4 on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
So all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. So the motion passes. We're going to reconsider 4.
No, well, we're going to do, make the motion, right?
So now I need a motion to amend item 4.
Well, we'll do the
No.
motion first and then we'll amend it.
No, I make a motion that we allocate $500,000. That we amend the budget to allocate $500,000 in fiscal year 22 and $500,000 in fiscal year 23 for infill housing incentive program.
Okay, so just not a motion to amend, but straight out.
That, first we need a motion for the budget.
We could do it, yeah, the recommended motion is an amendment to the motion to amend the budget and appropriate the funds, so.
Right.
I
So
believe
I
that's
just
what
did
you're
it,
doing.
amend the budget, $500,000 in 22 and $500,000 in 23.
So first we would do the motion and then the motion to amend would be after that. We better.
We haven't put it in the budget.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is okay to do, even if it's procedurally, we're okay to do this because this is not on the agenda.
Well, I was asked procedurally, legally, if that's what you're asking, because it's not on the agenda. Our attorney is saying it is
It's part of the same
allowed.
subject that was on the agenda. So it's
Right.
part of the subject matter is on the agenda. It's
Okay.
just language that got left out.
So we have a motion
To include in the
A
budget.
second.
To amend the budget, which
to amend the budget.
Right.
Okay, now is there any discussion on this before I call for a vote? Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Everyone's clear that it's 500 for 22, FY '22 and 500 for FY '23?
No, we still have money. I have something, Scott, real quick.
Ms. Olivari?
You know, I would like to see us get a report in about 9 months or so on how we're doing before we totally commit and see if this is working better than, that'll give you all time to implement. So that's not part of the motion, it's just a request.
Just as a note, the agreement does require annual updates, but we can request.
Yeah, but
more
before
often
we
if need
get
to.
to
That's
the,
correct.
yeah, I'm
We can
sure you
request more
will.
often if we
I'm
need
sure
to.
you will, but just give us a little more advance notice.
So do you have any questions? I'm hearing some
Yeah,
crosstalk here. Are there any questions? We have a motion and a second. on the
can we go ahead and approve 500,000 for 23 when we're only talking about the 22 budget?
The 23 budget hasn't been approved yet, so we can't really appropriate funds in 23. We can do the 22, and then the intention is to do the 23 and the 23 budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can
So-
do 500,000 now and 500,000 next year.
And the
23
500,000 will
budget.
be included in your budget next year when we bring it to you. So you can list in there that you want to, that the intention is to include 500,000 in the future budget, but we can't actually commit those funds because they don't exist yet.
Would, okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Would you be, Ms. Olivari, would you be considered?
Whatever y'all want to do with it.
Okay. So can you, so
The motion to allocate 500,000 for the
it's just the
22
500 for
fiscal
FY
year.
'22? And 23 will be included in our budget. We'll go through the budget process and approve it at that
Okay,
time,
I'll
next
be-
summer.
I can make, I mean, you can either amend it or I'll be happy to make another motion.
Yeah.
Then I would
So-
say allocate $500,000 in this year with the idea that in the future we would consider 500,000 in 23.
Okay, that's your
Okay,
motion?
so
Yes.
I'm just going to go with,
Yes, it's a motion to
Amend the
motion on
budget for
floor.
2022 for $500,000 in the current fiscal year. The budget does not currently include that money, with the idea that we would also entertain potentially $500,000 next year.
in 2023.
In 2023. Just the note that 2022
Next fiscal
starts
year,
next
that's
week.
correct.
Obvious.
So it's 2022, not 2021. 2022 starts next week, just in case there's confusion.
Right,
Because it'll
that's
give
all
us an
we
opportunity to
can do.
evaluate.
So that's a good point, Mr. Thomas.
So it sounds like we're all on the same table now.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a motion and we have a second.
Makes it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Okay. So that was the budget. Now I'll entertain a motion for the two-year agreement with the city to provide Type B affordable housing funding in the amount of $1 million for cost related to infill housing, the incentive program. So that's,
I thought she did both of those.
No, sir,
No.
she didn't.
No,
I missed that.
no agreement.
do I have a motion for that? Mr.
Second.
Wilson again?
Who
And do I have a
seconded?
second? Second by
It's the
Mr. Temez.
agreement itself. We haven't done the agreement.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Okay. Motion passes. Wow. I have like a script here. That's what I was going off of.
Sorry, I was unaware of that. Otherwise I would have reminded you, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is a public hearing. This is for the allocation of funds in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for Type B sales tax to be funded for the Lozano Executive 9 Golf Course Lighting Project. And we'll start, before I open up any public hearings, we'll start with a staff presentation.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Young,
Board, and I
Dr. Young.
appreciate your time and consideration today. City Council approved an ordinance authorizing funding in the amount of $2,300,000 for the development of the Gabe Lozano Executive 9-hole golf course and complete transformation of the existing practice range. The fiscal year 22 Type B budget is a request for a $500,000 investment into the facility to allow the city to add lighting to the estimated $2.3 million renovation project. The lighting projected will enable the nighttime operation of the Lozano Golf Center, which in turn will generate a projected annual amount of $346,528 of new revenue. This additional revenue supports an estimated total of 7 full-time equivalent job positions for operations. In addition, the facilities serve not only local golfers, but also out of town. Yes, sir.
You're still on the cover page of your presentation. Is there more?
Your slides
You can
on the
advance
first
your
page.
slides.
Yes, sir. No,
We can't see the numbers in the presentation.
that's correct. I'm just going through some numbers, then I'm going to introduce Mr. Ed Miller, and they're going to go through the presentation to describe the
Okay.
project.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Yes, sir.
Proceed. Sorry.
So, in all, we had the South Texas Economic Development Center, College of Business, actually review the project and draw up an economic impact report regarding the project, which is included in your packet. And in all, the Economic Development Center estimates that the overall impact of this project will be $1.14 million on the city and the creation of a total of 13 new job positions within the community. And board, who I have here today is Mr. Ed Miller, who is the General Manager of Operations for Foresight Golf, our partner that actually runs the golf facilities. And we have Mr. Mike Whelan, who is the Vice President of Operations. And Mr. Miller is going to walk you all through the presentation to describe the project.
Thank you, Dr. Young.
Thank you, Neiman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. As Neiman said, my name is Ed Miller. Excuse me. I am the Chief Operating Servant for Foresight Golf, and we have been your lease operator since 2011. It's been a real pleasure to be here in Corpus Christi and to be able to work with your constituents, our customers, and the golfers here in the golf courses here in Corpus Christi. If you would turn to the next slide, please. Since 2011, we have identified, what we believe that we're now discussing to be a very exciting project. Since 2011, we recognized that we had 40 acres of completely underutilized space when we have a lot of demand for golf, particularly in the peak times, as well as we have a lot of demand for our instructional programming and our school golf. We host at primarily Lozano Golf Center 7 high schools and 9 middle schools. If you were to come over to the golf course this afternoon, you would see, 4 to 7 buses that would be unloading approximately 15 to 20 kids per bus. Golf teams comprise both, men and women. And usually the team numbers are between 5 and 10. We've recently seen an increase as a result of the increase in the game of golf from the effect of the coronavirus in 2020. So we have literally the only practice range in Corpus Christi. So it's really the only place for them to practice. We like to get them on the golf course as much as possible, but what happens is they compete with our regular customers in the afternoon hours for golf. And a lot of the high schoolers are less proficient players, they're beginners in the game, so they don't like the pressure being out there amongst the the regular golfers that are moving quickly. So this has been an opportunity really from the get-go, and we are absolutely, and we've brought it up honestly several times at previous council meetings when we would do our annual report to Corpus Christi City Council, but it wasn't until this administration that we've gotten any traction or any interest in improving the golf facilities even more than we've been able to do over the last 11 years. The other thing that is really unique about having an executive course, and what an executive course is it's a shorter golf course, and it has a combination of par 3s and par 4s, which is different than a par 3 golf course, which has only par 3s. So an executive course, we believe, has much more of a draw to customers because they actually get to hit their driver. And the new design has 3 holes of 9 holes where they would get to hit their driver, as well as all the other clubs that go with. And this is projected to be a very state-of-the-art facility with everything new greens, new bunkers, new grass. Right now, the only thing that gets irrigated on the executive course are the putting greens. And as a result, we'll look at a future slide, but it gets virtually no play. And it's really overflow play. Someone shows up wanting to play, they find the golf course is busy, and there's no spot for them, so, well, we'll go play the executive course. This would change that dynamic to the point that people would come just to play the executive course. And, I mean, you're all probably aware that we have a significant influx of winter Texans, that the vast majority of them play golf. And we get to entertain these people at both of our golf courses. It used to be that it was primarily at Oso Beach, but by improving Lozano over the last 11 years, we get winter Texan play now at both of our golf courses. The winter Texans, being typically more elderly, they rise early and they wind their day down earlier than people of a younger generation. So we would foresee that this golf course, being state-of-the-art and high quality, would attract the winter Texans during the morning hours, which the schools are in session. So, there's no competition for that play at that point in time. It's also short enough that you'll probably be able to play this golf course in an hour and a half. So there has been a lot of concern in the industry the last several years that golf takes too long and we need venues that can be played more quickly. This golf course will meet all of those. And then when the winter Texans are finishing up their game, the high schools will start arriving, and rather than have something that's kind of a glorified pasture to be able to play on, they will now have a facility that will be state-of-the-art and as good as really any other facility in the state of Texas. So this facility, we believe, will serve many. And again, we identified this as an opportunity going all the way back to 2011. If you look at the next slide, when we identified the opportunity in 11, the lighting the facility was not on our radar screen. What has happened since then is that, are any of you familiar with the golf phenomenon Topgolf? Well, Topgolf has changed golf in a very interesting way to an entertainment venue, where golf is it's the theme, but the people that are showing up at Topgolf are, they're much younger. It's a great date venue, young men and women, or middle age, any age for that matter, are coming to Topgolf, and they use golf, but they partake of the food and beverage that's offered there. And our industry and the game of golf has benefited from that because they've been exposed to golf clubs in their hands and hitting shots, and they obtain a level of proficiency, and then they go, boy, it'd be interesting to, what would it be like to play real golf? And we are seeing many of these people show up at our facilities for instruction, and we're there to welcome them with open arms. The other thing that's happened is that other facilities before us have recognized, and probably in large part due to the success of Topgolf, have recognized the added attraction of having a lighted facility. And as a result, there have been a lot of short courses that have been remodeled in the last half a decade that include light projects. I mean, getting pricing and finding engineering contractors for the lighting is not difficult, because if you're doing a short course, lighting it really adds sizzle to the project, and it adds hours of operation. We know the people that run the San Antonio City golf courses quite well, and we have a precedent in that the city of San Antonio, through the Alamo City Golf Trail, just remodeled their San Pedro driving range and par 3 golf course. And before the remodel, they would do 20,000 starts. In 2016, the last year of the remodel, they did 20,000 starts. They are on pace to do over 50,000 starts this year. And 30% of their play occurs under the lights. So they extend operating hours by, in the longer summer days, probably by 4.5 hours. But when they get to the winter days, they extend operating hours by 6 to 7 hours. And those hour extension amounts to 30% of their revenue. And if you were to go to their online booking website and book a tee time, you would see that they charge a premium to play under the lights. So the demand to play a cool, fun golf course under the lights is really there. And that's why this has now become part of the project. And we believe that it's the part of the project that has by far the best return on investment. It's also the part of the project that is likely to take more non-golfers that aren't regular, and because they can now go and play under the lights, where likely we'll be piping music through the loudspeaker. We'll have adult beverages there for their consumption. It will have a similar effect to Topgolf, where we're going to attract people that aren't already diehard golfers. We have a lot of people in Corpus Christi that come here for the ocean and the beach and those activities, but once the sun goes down, it's pretty much either dining or I believe there's one bowling alley in town. We believe that those people that are visiting will learn that this is an entertainment opportunity, and we will experience significant play from the tourist population as well. So that's why we're here before you today talking about the lights. The other slides, if you want to turn to the next slide where it says highlights of the remodel, this has, as Neiman said, this has already been approved by council last Tuesday. But it, in bullet point, and if you want to dig in, you can look. Well, it's kind of small, but these bullet points correspond to an area on the plan on the right. But I can tell you that we literally have none of this now, and what is on this piece of paper is very, very high quality, very high tech compared to most facilities in the state, for that matter. So if you want to go to the next slide and look at the economics of the remodel, I think I'd like to start and show, the top section shows the play and the business that we do on the executive course right now. And in 2019, we had a total revenue of $39,000. And if you go over to the box on the very right, we wanted to break those rounds down so that you could see really how much utilization the golf course was experiencing. And in 2019, 10 players a day. The golf course is open, for 12 hours during the summer, and it only experienced 12 players a day. And that's because it's a glorified pasture, and it's an afterthought, and it is completely underutilized space, which we are delighted is now changing. It was better in 2020. 2020 was our best year ever in Corpus Christi. The effect of the coronavirus was, very detrimental to so many businesses and so many people. Golf, on the other hand, benefited because it was one of the only places that people felt safe to be outside. They could social distance on the golf course, and as a result, more people came to the golf course. We had people that hadn't played in a long time came back to the game, and we had new people. We tell the story about, what the associations, all of the industry golf associations, and we as operators have tried to do to get the millennials interested in golf for years and years to no avail. What we would hear from the millennials is golf. My grandpa plays golf. I don't really want to play golf. Well, in 2020, literally everything else was closed, so we ended up getting a lot of millennials that came to the golf course. And all of a sudden, they go, wow, this is fun. And now they are continuing to come back. They have been what has kept our momentum as we have now gone through 2021. And 2021 in Corpus is looking like it's going to be another very good year for golf and for us and the city in the revenue share. So going to a state-of-the-art facility, it changes the dynamic economically in a big way. And honestly, we think that the numbers that you have on the pro forma here could be conservative. Because we believe that the facility is going to be that good, and we believe that the lighting is going to change the dynamic even more.
So, Mr. Miller, I don't mean to interrupt. So we've seen this presentation before.
Okay.
And the city staff agreed to come back and show us some economic analysis behind this to kind of prove the new numbers. Are we going to get that in our presentation here at any point? Yes, we are? Okay.
Dr. Lee with Texas A&M did an economic development study.
Yeah.
And
And I think that's kind of the,
Okay.
what we're probably looking for a little bit more. We
I'm
totally
sorry.
agree that, no, it's, you don't apologize for that. I think we all understand the importance of this and the need, and we've seen these numbers before. It's now it's to a point of the economics behind it and the return on the investment for the board and the new jobs that it will create. And I don't want to speak for everyone on the board, but I think that's probably that's the information that we're looking for today.
Okay.
But we do appreciate your time.
I have a couple questions for Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold on a second. I want to hear the economics before.
Yes, sir. So, as you'll see, as referenced before, there is an economic impact study.
No, can they,
Yeah,
is there a way to have the screen right?
Okay. And so what I did was actually take that very comprehensive report and captured it in a one-page summary, so we can actually take a look at the numbers and get down to the nitty-gritty of how this project impacts the city. Thank you, Mr. Miller. We really did that pro forma to show how adding the lighting would impact revenue at the Lozano Golf Course. But of course, the Type B board wants to know, well, how does it impact the community as a whole? And that's what we asked Dr. Lee to take a look at, just specifically for the lighting, not for the whole project. If you'll see, according to Mr. Lee's report, he agrees that the Lozano income will be $346,528. And as Mr. Miller stated, it is a revenue share agreement that we have in place for Foresight. So the city will realize 50% of that revenue, which equates to $173,264. And then in Mr. Lee's report, he goes on to state that, well, individuals coming to Lozano at night to play golf aren't just going to spend money at the facility itself. They're going to go and they're going to purchase gas. They're going to probably visit restaurants off-site in addition to, pursuing entertainment at the facility itself. And what he equates is that spending is going to come in at an estimate of $364,919. So all in, spending on-site and near-site comes to a total of $711,447. But then that's just the spending near the facility or on the facility. We also have to go and look off-site, which in the report Dr. Lee calls spin-off spending. And it says that because of these operations, it'll generate $577,404 of off-site spending, and then $563,347 in the greater Corpus Christi area. That would be more like the hotel rooms or hotel sales. So all in, that would bring it to a total of $1,140,752. It should state that out of those sales, that $1.14 million of sales, we will generate an estimated sales tax of $64,193. So I took that number, that $64,193, and I added that, again, that 50% revenue that the city would realize, and that means that the city would receive actual revenue of $237,457 annually, which equates to a return on investment of 2.1 years to see our investment returned. So, and again, Dr. Lee was gracious enough to not only discuss revenue, he also went a little bit further and started saying, okay, how does this equate to jobs? And if you look at the blue square on the sheet, you'll see that it states that just from operations alone, they'll create 7 positions for full-time equivalents and 6 full-time equivalent positions in the greater Corpus Christi area. If you look immediately under that, you're like, well, okay, what is the salary opportunity for these positions? And that total is $455,771. And when you break that down amongst 13 positions, that equates to a salary of about $35,000 to $40,000 price range, which would be equivalent for someone that's serving food or beverage or working in the hospitality industry. So with that being said, I stand by for any questions that you may have on the economic impact report.
Okay, before we open up the public hearing, we'll take questions from the board, and I think Lee has his name first. Go ahead, Lee.
Yes, and Mr. Miller might be able to answer some of these specific questions. So the San Pedro Clinic in San Antonio and us attracting new golfers to the scene at the Executive 9 course. One, do they have a program where they have free club rental or a special day where there's free club rental? We're trying to get folks who, we have tourists that they don't have clubs. So I don't know what the plans are there. And two, I'm assuming that the clubhouse would remain open, or maybe a separate, smaller facility would be built near this concession area or the driving range, the Exec 9. Is that in the plans, or how would you address those?
That is in the plan. Yes, the city of San Antonio, at some of their facilities where they offer youth programming, they do that. They have free rental clubs. We do that at all of our we have adult beginner programming that targets those people that have been to Top Golf or have come out and played for the first time and want to get better. We have free rental clubs for them to use while getting the instruction and to practice with. We do a lot of junior camps throughout the summer months, 5 as a matter of fact, and we have free equipment for the kids to use. We do everything we can to break down the barriers for someone taking up the game of golf. So the city of San Antonio, they have 8 golf courses, including San Pedro, and many of them have facilities, and they're spread out all over the city. So they, their high school golf teams utilize almost all those facilities, whereas here in Corpus Christi, they all utilize Lozano. So we're getting all of them. As to the question about the building, you're absolutely right. At San Pedro, because it is only a par 3 golf course and a practice facility, their building is situated and tailored to serving the clientele until it closes at night. Lozano is not really that way, as the clubhouse building is up on top of the hill, and it would be quite a distance. We are planning and working on how we can create a building, a halfway house type building that would have restrooms and would enable us to sell food and beverages and range balls in the after hours that would be located down by the existing practice tee. You have to have the restrooms to be able to accommodate the increased demand and not have to have people go all the way up to the clubhouse building. So we're working on that.
Making it available and getting into the range. I'm sure with the redo, as you know now, when it rains, you got a 2-3 week lake.
You're familiar.
That takes Mother Nature to cause the draining. So that all will be redone where there's proper drainage. When we do have a deluge, we're rock and rolling in a few days.
Absolutely. This is the opportunity to fix that as well. And you're right. I mean, we lose a bunch of revenue and get our programming impacted by having that range flooded. So yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Thanks, Lee. Ms. Summers, you're up next.
So looking at, you said 2020 was your best year on record. So that was 19 rounds a day. And what we're seeing here in the pro forma is that you're expecting those 19 rounds to be increased to 40 rounds during the day with an additional 32 rounds at night. So an almost 400% increase with just the renovation on the greens.
Well, I'm sorry. When I referred to 2020 being our best year, that was over the whole facility. I mean, when we started here in Corpus Christi back in 2011, our golf courses did about 70,000 rounds total, and that was skewed. It was like, a little more than 40,000 at Oso Beach and 30,000 at Lozano. Last year we were just under 100,000 rounds between the two golf courses. We're ahead of last year in this year, and we believe that we'll be over 100,000 rounds between the two golf courses. Today it is, we can't hardly understand it, but the rounds between the two courses are nearly identical. If we were to look at our daily report today, we'd see that they're probably within 200 rounds of each other at Oso Beach and Lozano. The rounds numbers that we have for the executive course just show that nobody plays it. When you go to a golf course, you expect that the fairways are irrigated, that the ground is soft enough to take a divot, that the greens roll nicely. They're beautiful and they roll nicely. We just haven't been able to provide that. There's no irrigation at the executive course. If you were to go out there right now, you'd find the ground is cracked to the point where a golf ball could, roll into the crack and disappear. It has no architectural theme to it. When we redo it, we're gonna work the entire land. So rather than a flat piece of property with bumps here and there that represent greens, we're gonna have a sweeping landform that goes, throughout the property with features cut naturally into the landform that's there. So it's really gonna change. And a 400% increase, I know it looks like a big number, but 400% increase over nothing it's very doable.
Okay, and then what are the how many hours are the lighted, how many hours will there be for the lighted course?
Well, that'll vary from time of year. You know, our climate is moderate, even in the winter months. But the sun goes down in the winter months at like, you know, 5:30, 6 o'clock when we don't have daylight saving time. So typically, closing time is midnight. So then it'll be 6 to 6.5 hours of extended time frame at a time of year where it's actually quite comfortable. In the summer months, when the sun goes down at 8 o'clock, you know, we'll extend operation another 4 hours to get to the midnight closing time.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Mr. Wilson?
So I like to hitch my wagon to winners. And you guys, I think, are winners. You've turned, I asked Peter last time, thinking I knew the answer, how much did we lose on our golf courses? He said, we make money. And for those of you that didn't get a chance to hear, was it Mr. Pedrati that spoke to City Council? It was impressive. And he finalized his comments by saying that the Foresight was getting ready to write the city a check for $500,000. They know what they're doing. And I would add, people do take trips just to play golf. I have a lot of friends that go for a weekend, have some that are in Florida right now doing it. So I think if we have quality facilities, people that aren't coming here will come and stay longer. So I think it's a good return, and I support it.
Thank you. Leah?
Yeah, I'm just kind of about the hours of operation, let's say winter and summer, what are they now and what will they be? Will you start at like 7 o'clock in the morning? Because you could play,
Oh, yeah.
like in the winter, I'm even thinking, yeah.
Our first tee times are 30 minutes. Well, we cheat sometimes at here in Corpus because we have the demand and people want to play. But we try and give our maintenance department a half an hour head start or a little head start on players. So our standard operating procedure is that our start time is 30 minutes after sunrise. So right now the sun is rising at 7:12. So the first start time would be 7:45 or thereabouts. And all the courses start then, but the limiting factor on the other end of the day is when the sun goes down. Right. And the regulation golf course, last tee time now is about 6 o'clock, and then it's dark by 7:50 or so. So people all exit the golf course because they can't see. With lighting the executive course, it will extend that closing time period to whenever we turn the lights off. And at this point in time, we're using what the Alamo City Golf Trail does with San Pedro as our starting point. They stop at midnight. And, if we have more demand, we could.
All night off, yeah.
We want to turn it.
Good, yeah.
Okay.
So basically from, let's say, average 8 o'clock in the morning to midnight is your hours, more or less.
Yes, ma'am.
So let me ask you a question. I noticed, and some of this may get to Dr. Young, but the 7 FTEs for operations, is that, are y'all thinking you would employ more people in order to maintain this? Is that numbers of additional people, or is that what you have now?
Well, we'll have to employ more people. Right now, the maintenance requirement of the executive course is pretty non-existent. All we really have to mow are the putting greens.
Right.
And we typically will finish mowing the regulation golf course, and then we'll go over with the same person and we'll mow the greens on the executive course. We're not being chased by golfers on the executive course, so or interfering with golfers, so that right now that works fine. But when we redo the course, we're going to have, first tee time demand again. So we will, and we're going to have, right now, the property is about 40 acres. We mow 2 of it. When we do this project, we're going to have to mow, water and fertilize all 40 acres of it. So it's going to require, additional manpower, at least 2, maybe 3. Then, when we extend the hours of operation, we're going to have additional people that, they retrieve customers' golf cars, they wash them up, they put them up. The range will be operating those same hours, so we have people that go in a range picker cart. They pick the range balls on the range, bring them in, wash them up, get them ready for next day's operation. And we'll have people waiting on customers when it comes to checking them in for golf, selling them golf balls, selling them range balls, selling them hot dogs and
Adult beverages.
Adult beverages. So we'll.
So it was, the 7 is your kind of anticipated more or less number for
I think that's a good number.
people that you would need to bring on, not somewhere else. Okay, then my second part of my question goes more to this report, Mr. Young, Dr. Young.
Okay.
I'm a little confused about one thing. This is great, just what we needed, but you put in here direct spending elsewhere, and I've never seen spending other than at a facility included in direct spending elsewhere. Usually that's indirect spending. Did Dr. Lee put that number in there?
Yes, ma'am, that's actually in his report. He states that that spending, the term spending, direct spending elsewhere, is the fact that there is spending that has to take place near site in order to accommodate people playing golf. I stated they're going to stop at the gas station, they're going to stop at Stripe, get gas. They're probably going to get ice.
Well, I have to say, and I want to defend Dr. Lee in one and protect him to some extent. If I understand, probably his revenue estimate was based on a number he was given by Topgolf. Sorry, by y'all. And so I don't know if he projected that just by the additional rounds of play times whatever the numbers are or something like that. But when we start comparing apples to apples, that's not the way Dr. Lee normally and economists I've seen look at direct. Direct is what is spent at that location.
Yes, ma'am.
Indirect is what is spent elsewhere, and induced is what, you additional day of spending a night in a hotel. So I'm a little confounded that we're changing this. It's good, and it's not a reason to not do it, but it seems like we have terminology differences from project to project to project that I'd like to add.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to clarify at some point, I guess, with Dr. Lee.
Yes, ma'am. You can blame that on me from utilizing that term. Again, I was just trying to take a very comprehensive report and put it into
this is a
summary.
summary of his report.
Yeah, it's a summary of his
Okay,
report.
okay,
And
because-
he did utilize the pro forma $346,000 as a starting point. But if you look in the report, he actually has economic models that he utilizes as well. One called the M plan, which he references
Yes,
here.
I'm familiar with that plan.
So he just utilized that pro forma as a reference point, and then actually started developing economic models to verify the plan, and he walks the steps through the report on how you arrive at his numbers.
Yeah, I'm just confused, really. I'll have to think
And
about
I
direct impact.
apologize, ma'am, again.
But this, what we have in our report, this page, these pages that begin on page 52, this thing, hospitality sector.
Yes, ma'am.
That's his report.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And again, I'm not an economist, so I'm trying to take.
I understand. You summarized it, but I'm
trying to put it in rudimentary
my question
terms.
is
But
just how he arrived at that.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not a deal killer for me. I'm just sort of curious in the future.
Ms. Olivari, I think if you look at page 50, you can see how Dr. Lee actually defined those numbers.
Yeah, I saw that, but
So
he actually, if this is his report, he actually does use the term direct for spending off the premises, and that's my point.
Yes, ma'am. And
And he- I mean,
I just
you,
utilize it,
you,
yeah,
you,
for
you
limited term.
accurately summarized it, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Before I go to Mr. Temez, Mr. Wilson, do you have something to add to your comments before?
I just wanted to, the way I understood direct is spending by the people that are playing golf, okay?
At that site,
At the site, or if they go to,
it's indirect.
well, but in this case, I understand that what he was trying to say is somebody plays golf, they come to town, they play golf and spend money at the course, they go to a restaurant, that's their expenses. Then there's the rollover indirect effect.
Induced is what, or indirect and
Indirect,
induced,
yeah. That, economists always use. So I just understood the definition differently.
Yeah, I could be wrong, Mr. Wilson, but when we've looked at other projects like the soccer project, all that was counted was what was spent at that facility. It wasn't the restaurants or the hotels or something, so it's just for the future, it's kind of like we need to have some clarity.
I'll keep that in
But,
mind, ma'am.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Temez?
Yeah, Mr. Wilson, how many lighted golf courses have been added in San Antonio? Mr. Miller, I'm sorry. Are you talking about municipal golf courses there in San Antonio? Because I'm familiar with all of them.
Right. In San Antonio, there's only been one,
San Pedro.
San Pedro.
Yeah, okay.
There's one in Houston
Yeah.
presently that is under construction, and we've been sharing notes with them and their contractor on the process.
Okay. Now, the other question, the other thing is, I'm familiar with the schools that bring their kids to practice, but they do it in the morning and afternoon. Okay, so they do it both ways. So, and they're not cluttered because I've seen them. I play every Tuesday and every Friday. They're at Oso and Lozano.
The reason they do that is so that they, there's room on the tee. If they all had come previously, and they used to all come at the same time, the morning and afternoon thing is recent development in the last couple of years, and we're glad that they can come in the morning because it's a little more quiet.
Well, I play with about, excuse me, anywhere from 12 to 20 people on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we see the buses there, and we know the coaches, and we know the players, and we talk to them, so we know when they go and when they come and what schools come in there. So anyway, how many employees do you have right now on a daily basis?
Exactly, you can't hold me
Employees.
to exactly.
Operations, I'm talking about operations. Because I only see one or two in the counter and one in the concession stand. And the rest that I see
Well,
is in
maintenance group.
the maintenance group.
Well, and we also have usually one on the bev car, and then we'll have two, usually at all times, handling the golf cars and picking the range balls. And then we have another, 12 or 13 on the maintenance crew.
Okay, so, and you're saying something about adding 7 more just for the executive 9?
Well, the executive 9 and the extended hours, yes. When we, in the winter, the days are shorter, so we'll have, fewer full-time equivalents in the winter months than we have in the summer. When we get to the summer months, we have to have 2 full shifts typically to cover the day with some overlap in the middle of the day for the 2 shifts. By doing the lighting on the executive course, and it's only if we do the lighting, then we'll extend the hours anywhere from 6 during the winter months to 4 during the summer months, and we will have to staff for that. So, we expect that we will have to increase hours. We'll also have, at a certain point in time, we'll be closing the clubhouse facility, but, typically the business will switch to the executive course building, at a point in time, probably 6 o'clock or 5:30 during the day, and that's when people that want to come to the range or go play the executive course, that's where they're going to go to check in. Meanwhile, operations will be being shut down on the main clubhouse building.
Okay, what about the tourism? 6 jobs added. What are you talking about there on the tourism?
And I talked to Dr. Lee about that. Basically, because of this increased spending.
Dr. Lee doesn't play golf. I know. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But the way that they explained it to me, that because of this bump in spending in what's called the hospitality industry, well, there has to be that staffing to generate and receive that revenue. That'd be like, well, people are coming to utilize, more people coming to utilize hotels. Well, there has to be somebody there that's collecting the reservations. So there's support staff there. You have to look beyond just the hospitality industry, and naturally we have other entertainment venues in the city like the aquarium.
So in other ways, what you're saying is that it's going to create 6 more jobs because the hotel sales. So these people are coming to play golf to Corpus. They're coming to Corpus Christi just to play golf. So they're going to rent the hotels.
They're not coming to Corpus Christi just to play golf. What we believe is that there will be individuals that come to Corpus Christi to play golf, but they're also going to take advantage of the other tourist assets that we have to offer in the city. Again, like the aquarium or the botanical gardens. And because of that increased spending that's going to take place in our other entertainment venues, well, there's going to be some full-time equivalent jobs that's there. That's not saying that it will be full-time positions. There may be 2 part-timers to equate to that full-time position, but that spending is going to generate the need for additional positions throughout the community.
Okay.
Mr. Trujillo.
So I looked at the ROI, Leah, also, and so the 2.1 calculation, it's basically taking the $173,000 in direct spending for the Exec 9, and then the sales tax associated with the indirect spending of $1,140,000. That's how they got to 237. So it is calculating based on the direct. Well, indirect spending of $1,040,000 will equate to 64,000. That's just.
Yeah, that's sales.
Sales tax.
Yes.
That's the sales
Yeah.
tax. I agree.
Yeah, that plus the added revenue in golf gets you to 237. So it doesn't really take in consideration that spending elsewhere number that you talked about. And as far as the rounds of golf, typically pre-COVID, it was, around every 8 minutes, and probably now it's around every 15 minutes. So when you're at the tee box, you typically wait 15 minutes before you get to tee off with the next round. And there's usually 4 people per group, typically. So getting 16 golfers in an hour is a basic assumption. So if they did that for 3 hours, that would be 48 golfers playing the exec course. And right now, there's more people playing the exec course for free than those that pay, because it's just not looked at. It's a blind eye. But if this thing is, we got a $2.3 million investment coming in to put the irrigation and sprinklers, people are going to play. Robert and John, they're going to be there playing that exec course lit up once the lighting's there. They're saying no now, but he'll be there before I get to play. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm in support of this. Originally, I wasn't, but I did listen to Mr. Pedrati's presentation, and I do think that this puts us as one of 3 in the state that has lighted golfing, and I do think it will see a whole lot of increased traffic, and that at some point in time, and just the fact that, I'm pleased with the $2.3 million because the junior golfers get to utilize this. I don't go to the range because it closes early. But if I know they're going to be open for late, then I can go at 9 o'clock and hit some balls. And now that it's going to be lit up, hey, let's go play quick 9 holes. So I do foresee that happening. I'm not like Robert retired where I can just go, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Driving range is lighting up right now.
Yeah, but they close early.
No, they close at 9 o'clock.
That's, okay, that's early. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vols?
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to make this easy for you. I'm going to move this along. Before I do, one thing I would like to see, Peter, is somewhere down the road that you guys look at major improvements to the clubhouses at both Lozano and Oso. You know, these guys do a great job since they've taken over. They've done a really fantastic job. The courses are in really good condition. But come on, you guys even got to admit that, you know, that's putting lipstick on a pig with those two clubhouses. I'm not kidding you, they're pathetic. I mean, when I have a friend come in town and we want to go play, and I'm like, Jesus, you know, driving up, it's not pleasant. But I appreciate what you guys do, and any investment in that facility is good for the community. And the fact that the city, because you guys came to us originally asking for a lot more. Now the fact that the city is putting up their money of 2.3, 500 is not a huge investment for us. So I'm willing to try this experiment. I know Dr. Lee extremely well. I've worked with him on many projects. I think these numbers are very ambitious. Your terminology here is extremely confusing. This is not the typical way, and I agree with Leah that economic impact reports translate their information. So just to let you know that. But, you know, I support it just like Lee does, and I'm going to make a motion to approve the item.
Second.
Okay, we need to have the public hearing, please.
Oh, okay.
Before we move on to the public hearing, any further questions from the board? Ms. Summers, did you have something?
Last question. On the 6 tourism jobs that Mr. Temez was talking about, is there a way that we're going to be able to track those additional jobs or measure those additional jobs?
That would be out in the greater industry, but I'll see if there's some type of.
So can I help you a little bit with those drops? I think I understand. The in-plane actually takes what it considers to be the revenue, and it takes a sector, and it projects the number of jobs. So it will take that 1.14. It will actually take that number and say, in this employment sector, this is how many jobs are normally produced for that amount of revenue. That's not true in the direct, but it is probably true for the indirect. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be able to go out and find those people. You could find the 7 operating people. Right. It's just, yeah, it's the way, that's what in-plane does the projections for you.
Yeah, there's multiplier effects involved
Yeah.
in that. Okay.
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Do we have any public comments on this item, this particular item at this time? Randy, you want to say anything?
Randy should have given the presentation.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Yeah, no kidding,
So-
right?
Seeing no public comments, we'll close the public hearing at this time. And now I'll entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Mr. Temez is a
Do a
no.
roll call vote.
Do you want a roll call?
Sure, we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, so for passage of motion 5 related to the golf course, Mr. Trujillo,
Yes.
Mr. Vols,
Yes.
Ms. Summers, Oliveri, Wilson, Tamez, Harris.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item J on the agenda is our executive director comments. Mr. Zanoni?
Yeah, just to thank the board for these 2 initiatives today. This will help our affordable housing program, and we know that the city's significant investment of 2.3 will be enhanced with that $500,000 that you all approved today, and we'll keep you posted on the progress. The construction's going to take about a year, They're going to do, as you mentioned, irrigation, new grading, but all brand-new grass as well, lighting. So it'll take about a year, but we'll share with you the progress as they do the work over there. And no other comments other than that. We have our next board meeting about a month from now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Scott.